Stand By Me is one of my all-time favorite movies and short stories. I've touched on Stand By Me before on the channel, but if you want me to fully dive into that film, let me know in the comments.
Is it me, or are you the world's biggest pussy?
Honestly, my love of film hit a landmark with Stand By Me, and I can largely credit that film for how I viewed other dramas from there on out. And I can kind of pinpoint, that particular story as kind of my first steps into the genre. So a few years after falling in love with Stand By Me, for the first time I saw a film get made that really hit on a lot of the same points. I mean, albeit not aimed at me directly, like at all. But I clearly recall seeing the trailer for the film Now and Then, and getting similar vibes, and then getting it into my head that I have to see this girl movie called Now and Then. And wouldn't you know it, I may have just related to this one even more. Now and Then tells a seemingly by-the-numbers story, but in a fairly unique way, and with a perspective that wasn't really seen in those days. And honestly, I think it's kind of unfair to compare it to Stand By Me, but it's unavoidable, really. I mean, as far as similarities, we get a group of kids dealing with some real-life issues, who take a journey of sorts over the summer that takes them to some spooky places, as a weird subplot to this film is them searching for the identity of a long-lost soul of a dead kid, or something. Although, here the narrative takes a back-and-forth take, or a now-and-then take, as the film is juxtaposed between the kids and the adult storylines. Another kind of familiar Stephen King thing. Although the film is still pretty basic overall, like it doesn't really dare too much, well, aside from telling us that Christina Ricci grew up to be Rosie O'Donnell. And tonally the film is a little odd, as it goes for some scares throughout for some reason and takes on a seemingly supernatural essence in its third act. Although it never really does go in with the horror elements, although there is some body horror stuff, like Christina Ricci turning into Rosie O'Donnell. But Now and Then does have some spectacular set design and photography, as well as one hell of a soundtrack, and throughout all the performances are top notch, especially with the young Gabby Hoffman carrying the film. The cameos too, there are some surprising cameos. We get a pop-up appearance from Janine Garofalo, Bonnie Hunt, Hank Azaria, and even Brendan Fraser in an uncredited role, just to name a few. Oh yeah, and even King Sawa shows up. This guy rules. I'm glad he's having a resurgence these days. And there's even a Linda Richmond cameo for eagle-eyed viewers. Weird. I can't help but feel the film was butchered in post, as the subplot with Rosie O'Donnell being a lesbian has been rumored to have been cut, as well as some stuff with Mr. Sawa. And it seems tampered with, as some stuff is kind of forced and off of the pacing. It seems a bit rampant at times, and then it just kind of takes a weird turn into the nostalgia route, and it really is all over the place. But I think the film does have a legacy, and for good reason. Again, we just didn't get these female-driven ensembles for major studios in those days, unless they were period pieces or something. Which I guess Now and Then is, but,
Knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me.
And much how Stand By Me breathes a certain breath of nostalgia for, the male demographic, Now and Then surely must do the same for the female demographic. As the life lessons and whatnot, and the laughter, it's all universal. Strangely, that same year, the film's writer, Marlene King, would also write one of my personal favorites, National Lampoon's Senior Trip, a film that I've also covered on the channel, featuring star Eric Edwards. Check that one out next, why don't you? And Kelly Macon, Senior Trip's director, would also direct the hilarious Kids in the Hall Brain Candy, which also featured a Brendan Fraser cameo that went unnoticed. Weird. Now and Then did okay in the box office, as it received mixed to positive reviews, and of course found the life on video as movies of the 90s often did. Although, not all critics liked it, and a lot of the issues I had seemed to be shared with these old goons.
how many relationships in how many years, and I've run from every one of them.
I wanted more screen time of the grown women, in part because the girl's story was so inconsequential, with early dating scenes and a cornball mystery involving a dead child.
Well, I didn't like it either, Gene, but I certainly didn't want to see more of the adult actresses. I wanted to see nothing of the adult actresses because they have nothing to do with the story. Now, obviously, the antecedent of this film is Stand By Me, which began and ended with Richard Dreyfuss remembering what happened with those young boys many years ago. But here, the story should have been the young actresses. They're good in the film. They're all good actresses in many other films, too. They could have been given a better story and just go ahead and do it.
The young cast would go on to greatness, but at the time, they were still largely child actors. And for most of them, this was their first real dramatic production. Something that I'm sure was noticed by Hollywood. As you know, as I said, they would all go on to greatness. Some of them even went on to Oscar greatness. Aside from Ashley Ashton Moore, who sadly would pass on at a young age. I think Now and Then works and really accomplishes what it set out to do, and is an overall relatable film to everybody. It would make for a good double feature with Stand By Me as well. What are some of your nostalgic favorites? Let me know down in the comments. And let me know what you think about Now and Then. Oh, and also, let me know what you think about Christina Ricci turning into Rosie O'Donnell.